Dean Evans, who normally joins us at the end of Track Talk. We've brought him forward. Winning Edge Investments treat betting like a business. Gamble responsibly. 1-800-858-858. Dean, I don't know. I flipped a coin because we could have started with the Moir, we could have started with the Golden Rose, but this is a national show, so I flipped the coin, and we're going to go with the Golden Rose first. Melbourne listeners, don't drop off, Dean, because we'll have both of them covered here. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Andrew, and good morning, Simon. And yeah, look, some outstanding racing again this weekend, which is very exciting. And the Golden Rose, it's a race where the winner suddenly becomes valued at 8 figures. So it's certainly a major race on the calendar.
Well, that's the point too, Dean. We had James Harron and also Sam Fairgrave from Yulong Investments on yesterday. They're two of these Everest slots that are still hanging out, and I reckon they're looking at both of these races tomorrow night and Saturday.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's there's a lot up for grabs in a race like the Golden Rose, but with the Everest there in the background, and there's still about 5 open slots. There's a lot for them to race for, and there are a couple of horses in that race that could potentially sneak into the Everest.
Simon, we discussed it, didn't we, 2 or 3 weeks ago? You threw up the Inferno, then it came out and won the McEwen. On tomorrow night? Simon? Simon's lost us.
Sorry, we've lost you, Andrew.
Yeah. Okay, they've lost us in the system.
All right, we're back. We can hear you.
We're back. Okay, all right. Sorry, Simon.
You're right.
Can I just pose the question? The Inferno tomorrow night, are the drums beating for you again?
I think so. I think tomorrow's a good audition for the Everest. I'm not sure about the setup, but in terms of there's not a lot left out on the table. We saw last weekend, obviously, Eduardo beating Nature Strip. I'd say a few disappointing runners were there. So I'm not sure what is left. If he can run a big race on Friday night, I'd have to say put his hand up to get into the race for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. All right. Well, as I say, we could have looked at the Moir, we could have looked at the Rose, we could have looked at many races, but I flipped the coin. It landed on earth that was stationary. It wasn't moving, Simon. It was just sort of sitting there. And we've decided to go with the 4X Golden Rose to look at first. Race 8 on Saturday at 4:05. As it stands right now, it's a good, keen betting race. That's what we want. Animo is right now $2, but I've got the feeling that it may just get out a little bit. $9 Artorias in the Congo, $8 Remark. I just reckon, Simon, as I come to you, $2, I wouldn't be jumping in at that price with Animo.
Yeah, it's very short, especially for a Golden Rose. You look back in the history of the race, obviously Rothfire was a very short price favourite, but prior to that, Bivouac at around 6-4 was probably one of the shortest favourites we've seen in a while. It's interesting for looking at Godolphin's record. They've won 3 of the last 6, which obviously looks very good on paper, but they actually didn't have any runners in the other 3 editions. So they're really 3 from 3. When looking at it, I can't remember them stepping out of Blue Jacket in the race and not winning. So there's a bit of pressure on Animo. He'll be their shortest price favourite going into the race. We've obviously Bivouac, Astern and Exosphere all did the job for Godolphin, and Animo looks fairly likely to be winning there on the weekend. The fact he won first up in the Run to the Rose was the biggest push for me. He had a disrupted prep, only the one soft trial in the lead-up, gave them weight and was still too good. So I think it's hard for them now out of that race to turn the tables. I think Artorias is a serious danger to the race. He's obviously beaten Animo in the Blue Diamond. And the 2 tune-up runs in Melbourne, both weren't really run to suit him. His best performance, obviously, in that Blue Diamond was high pressure, and he hasn't seen that yet this time in. So now third up, high pressure 1400. The Golden Rose always is. So I think Artorias can jump out of the ground on the weekend. I don't think it's as cut and dry as Animo just wins. But they're the 2. The horses behind Animo, they're the ones I struggle to see turning the tables. And the others from the sort of the Jarnis, I'm not sure, obviously following the same profile as the Autumn Sun, gone to Queensland and then back in trip for the Golden Rose. I'm just not quite sure that form is good enough. But with these lightly raced 3-year-olds, they're in the right stable, so they can make the jump. But I think if Animo improves, I think Artorias is the only one that can get near him on the weekend.
I was talking to the Freedman Racing Stable this morning. Artorias has been in Sydney since the weekend and galloped at Randwick on Tuesday morning. They said our normal pattern barrier 11 doesn't come into it. Anamo's drawn, I think, 7 or 8. So I think they'd like to sit off Anamo, sit right behind Anamo and follow it. And then it's down to the qualities of both horses. Dean, how do you see the early stages? How do you see the pressure of the Golden Rose on Saturday?
Yeah, look, usually with the big fields and the Golden Rose, it's a pretty hot speed. The map I've got, though, in the Congo should lead pretty comfortably. Tiger of Malay, Moriban, Coast Watch, Giannis probably push forward to sort of handy positions. You've got Hilal there, who I think from that wide gate, is probably going to have to try to push across and ride for luck and hope he slots in. And then he's sort of got Captivant, Remark, Anamo, Royal Zell there, and then probably Artorius, like you say, trying to get on the back of Anamo, and Jamea and Star Tonte as the fillies I've got likely out the back. On paper and the early speed in the Congo, I've got them sort of leading comfortably with not a lot of pressure. But interestingly, the Golden Rose often has sort of a field of only 7, 8, 9. And this year we've got 13. In the editions where there were 13 runners or more, the winners in settling position and run have been 6th, 11th, 13th and 14th. So what that sort of denotes usually is when it's a big Golden Rose field, eventually the pressure goes on and it does allow for swoopers. So, it's an interesting map because on paper, not a lot of speed, but I just can't see that happening. I think they're going to really warm up early. And so, those back markers, they're going to get their chance.
Tiger Malay right now, $17 on Bet365 for this race. Now, it drew wide in a Dulcify, Simon, and they went forward and sat up near the pace. They can obviously do that on Saturday, and they get a far different draw. 1,500 to this distance, back 100 metres. How do you see Tiger?
Yeah, I think I love back in trip. I know a lot of people don't, but for me, you look at some of the better performances we've seen. Trapeze Artist back in trip for the TJ. It certainly works. Black Caviar back in trip for the Lightning. It does. I know I'm mentioning, some of our lead horses, but the back in trip does get overplayed. The Autumn Sun did it, winning this race, the same profile. He probably lacks a touch of class of the leading contenders, hence, he is double figures. But when you get a horse that can put themselves into the race from that good draw, you give yourself every chance. That's in the Congo. He's had every possibility this time in, but you continue to put yourself into the race from the outset, you're going to give yourself the best chance. So he's probably a smoky chance to run a place in the race, but I'd say the class will tell in the concluding stages.
Okay, Dean, give us your overview. Who do you think wins it? Does Godolphin make it 4 from 4 with Anamo?
Look, when you look at the profile of this race, the last 9 winners have been Colts. The last 9 winners have come off a 14-day break. The last 9 winners all won a black type race as a 2-year-old. Godolphin's won the race 4 times. As Simon alluded to, the last 3 times they've put a saddle on, they've won. And all of them have run in the Run to Rose as the lead up. And in second up, 7 winners. So, Anamo, he just ticks all those boxes. A Godolphin trained colt, McDonald on board, second up off the Run to the Rose, won a black type as a 2-year-old. He's just the perfect sort of profile for a Golden Rose winner. But, even money is a skinny quote to be taking in a race like this. So he's the one to beat. I think in the Congo, he ticks a fair few of those boxes. He was a good close second to Anamo on the Run to the Rose. He did sort of finish strongly there and kick away from the rest. If he gets a soft lead on pace, then he's sort of one that they're all going to have to run down. And I do think that Tiger of Malay is actually the best roughie. He won the Group 2 Sales Produce as a 2-year-old, won the up and coming first up with 61 kgs and ran a close second in the Dulcify with the top weight. They've actually both proven to be pretty good sort of left field lead up races for this race historically. He likes it bone dry. He'll sort of be on a decent pace, but if they go hard, I think like Simon alluded to, that 1,500 back to 1,400 is actually a good profile when they if the speed does go on. So there's a few of these that just don't sort of profile right from a historical perspective, and so they're sort of the 3 the couple that I think can take on Anamo, if anything.
Okay, in the Congo and Tiger of Malay, as I say, about $17 and $4 the place at Bet365. Maybe your top 2 or 3, Simon?
Yeah, for me, I sort of got to stick with the class. The good horses win these races. You do get the anomaly every now and then, but I think Anamo is very hard to beat. Toss you a coin, he wins 5 in 10. I'd say that's probably about right. Notorious, if he gets Anamo's back and they come into the straight, it's going to be a hell of a race home. I'd say they're the lead 2. Captivant for me is interesting. I thought he was really good fresh, and I reckon a high pressure 1,400 is really going to play into his hands. He gets a soft draw from the inside. If he can creep into the race, I wouldn't be surprised to see him run a good race at odds, but clearly the top 2, Anamo and Notorious.
It's going to be intriguing and all around that slot or slots for the Everest. We think that Coolmore's probably going to choose one of their own and Godolphin, obviously, but who knows? Godolphin might go trekking if it, say, wins tomorrow night. They might try and get Animo in another slot. So there's a fair bit to play out through the Golden Rose. Let's look at tomorrow night at the Valley. The Moir is the Group 1 over 1,000 metres, $1 million race. We've got Profiteer from Barrier 7 is going to be interesting, Dean. And talking with a couple of trainers this morning, how much pressure is going to be put on Profiteer. And then it was interesting talking with James Moss from Tricolours. Hey, we've drawn inside with Ballistic Lover. We've drawn inside Profiteer. We're not going to be giving up early on in the race. So the pressure will be on, I think.
Yeah, there's a bit of speed. As you say, Ballistic Lover's there. Shakira push forward. Portland Sky and Wild Ruler both like to sort of lead or sit outside the leader and be in fresh air too. Miss Albania usually doesn't settle too far back. So you sort of got two groups here. You got that sort of leading six, all of whom sort of want to be pretty close to the pace. And then you got a bunch of swoopers. What's that? Trekking, the Inferno, September Rum, and Brooklyn Hustle will all be kind of biding their time out the back and hoping they set some fireworks up front.
Mick Price has sort of been this week. He's done a couple of interviews with us and other stations through the week. He says, look, we've got Profiteer as good as we can have him, Simon. We know he's speedy, but it's always, 1,000 metres coming back to racing, high-pressure race, just how forward they can be, given that a few of these have had a run.
Yeah, it's not easy, and 3-year-olds do have a very good record in the Moir since they went back to the 1,000 metres in 2015. They won 2 of 6 and only 8% of the participants. So they've got a great record, but I guess it's the star 3-year-olds, the ones that go there. So you'd expect them to have a good record. The query with Profiteer, it's always a line in the sand. 2-year-olds turn 3, just if they've made that improvement to take that next step. They are suited under the weight for age conditions if they're ahead of the curve. I think Profiteer was at 2. Obviously had excuses in the slipper prior to a break. Clearly a target race. Mick Price has done it before. I don't mind the draw for him. I think sometimes when you get a speed horse drawn inside, you can get others dictating to you, where now he can come across a Ballistic Lover and he's got great gate speed. So I think he should be able to find the front. It's just whether he can handle, as you touched on, the high pressure going to take on the older horses. I think conceding a run's not too big an issue over 1,000. Mick Price should have him ready to go. So interesting to see how he parades there on Friday, just in respect to the other horses in the race, if he has grown, because he was pretty small at 2. Yep. Doesn't mean everything, but it's something to take note of tomorrow. Profiteer
right now, $4 favourites. The Inferno at 5, Wild Ruler $7.50. September Run at 8, and you're getting some juicy odds if you want to take it with some nice horses. Portland Sky goes well at the Valley, Dean, $10 right now. And we spoke with Jason Warren earlier. He said Brooklyn Hustle is going maybe even better than what we've seen, and $13 right now.
Yeah, look, I've actually got Portland Sky on top here. He's a Group 1 Oakley Plate winner last prep. He's won a Group 3, second in a Group 2 and second in a Group 1 all at this track. So he goes well at the Valley. He jumped out nicely twice ahead of this prep at Cranbourne and Mornington, and then the first up in the McEwen. He sort of just maps like he might just sort of settle third or fourth and get quite a nice run, one off, and be able to sort of peel off at the right time. Profiteer is certainly one to beat, but the 2 3-year-olds that won this race, interestingly, were both ridden off pace. An interesting fact, since this race got moved to 1,000 metres, the last 6 years, every single winner was a previous Group 1 winner over either 1,100 or 1,200. And Profiteer doesn't fit that bill. My other concern with Profiteer is just both of his jump outs at Caulfield and Sandown. He sort of reefed and pulled in both of them. So he's a bit inexperienced, and I just think he's going to need better manners, to beat a field of this quality.
What are you thinking on that point, Simon?
Yeah, I think. Sorry, guys, got another call coming through. I think
probably the opposition, but you're more on this one.
No, it's the work. We got our work set up to come through. Yeah, I think I was sort of keen on Profiteer coming into it, and then I agree with Dean. I watched his jump outs, and I'm not overly convinced as yet. I think I've got to go the line with the Inferno. I think the big tick for him, obviously, we saw him show sharp improvement in his second start in Australia, and good to see him back to that Singapore number. It's going to be a completely different race shape for him, though. They walked and just sprinted in that, which is similar to his races in Singapore, whereas Friday night's going to be high pressure. He has done it before, high pressure 12 in Singapore, so it's just interesting to see how he reacts to the different scenario. But I think the draw for him is the big plus. I think he can really possibly settle ahead of the other back markers, which is a big tick for him. I think Brooklyn Hustle's one. You want to be a couple of lengths in front coming to the straight because she's got that sharp turn of foot and certainly going to be hard to hold out. She ran fourth in the race last year, and if she's going better this time around, expect her to be certainly flashing home late. But I think the Inferno, if he gets that nice suck run behind what Dean touched on, that good speed up front, Damien Lane in the saddle, I think if he gets the breaks there, I think he's the one I want to be with on Friday night.
Righto, the Inferno, $5 right now at Bet365. By the way, I should have done this. I'm a bit slack on it. If you want to text through any thoughts on these races, do it over the next couple of minutes, 0499 736 736. The Underwood Stakes on Saturday, boys. We know that there's only 5. There's 50 Stars, Zaki, The Chosen One, Superstorm and Probabile. So it's still not a bad 5. Simon, have you seen, I'm only hesitating here because we haven't been able to go to the races. Have you seen Zaki up close?
No, I haven't. It's been really hard. I've been in the races for ages now. The last meeting I was at was in Canberra, so it was Black Opal Day. So I haven't seen him. Obviously, very good first up. He's got all the boom inside. What is he, inside $1.30 for Saturday. Cox Plate favourite. Interesting for Zaki. Probably will be the best horse he's raced down here by a fair margin. And I think she's been a bit undersold how good a performance was in that Rupert Clark. With 57, essentially she's carried 59. She's beaten just over a length. If you want to push that Rupert Clark Stakes form, you've got to push Probabile. So we haven't marked not far off a peak there. Quick backup. The distance obviously is a question mark, but it's going to be interesting to see how she measures up against Zaki on Saturday.
Well, it is. And Dean, just on that point, I mean, sometimes we get disappointed and more disappointed than what we should with a horse like Probabile because she didn't win. But not everything went right. Those inside barriers just didn't work with Probabile with gaining momentum with the weight she was carrying.
Yeah, that's right. The way the race played out in the day and the way the track was sort of playing, it just didn't work out for her, and it wasn't too bad a run, and interesting to see her stepping back up to a trip. She did run second in the Vinery, so getting up to the past the mile for the first time again. I think Superstorm's the other one to watch. I think he's a real genuine sort of Group 1 horse. I think he's up to being a weight for age horse, and I think he's one that could be. He could be running a really big race after a strong win in the Fee, and when he was also in the complete wrong part of the track. But I do think Zaki is is the next superstar, and he should be making light work of these.
$1.30 right now at Bet365. Zaki Probabile at $5. Simon, I know you've got plenty on this morning, so I appreciate you coming on. Our listeners obviously aren't seeing you, but I am. So behind you is a map of the world, I think. I think it's a map of the world. Okay, so has it been there all the time, or have you put it there thinking, I want to go somewhere when this is all finished?
Yeah, no, it's been there all the time, but now since COVID, certainly been marking off where we want to go. Got to get back to Greece, Andrew. It's been too long since I've been back there.
Greece.
So, yeah, it's my favourite. I think 5 or 6 times been there. Obviously, the Dinopoulos name certainly helps when you get over there, but can't wait to get back.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. All right, so for you, Animo and Artorias in the Golden Rose and the Inferno in the Moir.
Yeah, pretty boring, Andrew. I've pretty much tipped the market, but the Animo Artorias is the way I play the Rose. And I do think the Inferno, we've got him marked favourite, our first cut. So interesting to see what the market does there.
Okay. Simon, thanks for your time. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, cheers, Andrew. All the best. Cheers, Dean.
Simon Dinopoulos joining us there from Racing and Sports. Dean is with us. Just to wrap it up, Dean. So your play, listening to you in the Golden Rose, you think in the Congo can get us, if it gets a soft lead, can be in the finish, but you're thinking Tiger and Malay can run well?
Yeah, that's right. If it's a slowly run race, I think in the Congo, can be the one that's going to kick away on the turn and be the one that Animo needs to run down. I think alternatively, if the speed does go on hard in the midsection, which often happens in the Golden Rose, where you get a bit more of a swooper, I think that fit Tiger or the Malay just ticks all the sort of historical profiling criteria. for the kind of horse that could jump out of the ground and really improve and surprise in a race like this.
And just one final one, and I've got 30 seconds for this, Dean. Does Zaki lead the Underwood?
Possibly. He's got the toe to do so. Probably might also decide to push forward and make a bit of a race of it. So it's either sort of Zaki outside, probably Beal, or just getting the Suckruck in behind it.
It will be interesting. Hey, Dean, thanks for your time. Really good stuff this morning. We'll talk again next week.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Simon.
Dean Evans, winningedgeinvestments.com. Tips and ratings from professional punters throughout the Spring Racing Carnival. winningedgeinvestments.com.